everyone. It's Aidan Clifford here, your Microsoft Modern Workplace and Security Business Manager from Pax8. I've got a great edition of Modern WorkM8s here today. I'm joined by Chris Boyd, all the way from over in Seattle from Microsoft. Good morning, Chris. How are you?
Good morning. I'm great. And thank you for inviting me today to have the opportunity to chat with partners and everything we're doing around M365 Lighthouse to support them.
No, the pleasure's all mine, and thanks very much for making yourself available. Yeah, we've had a few conversations over the past few weeks around M365 Lighthouse and the new capabilities there. I was also lucky enough to get on the road last week to a few Pax8 events and present the story about M365 Lighthouse. And it seemed that a lot of partners are really interested in the updates here, but a lot of them also haven't really seen the evolution of M365 Lighthouse from a couple of years ago. So before we kind of jump into that, are you able to share sort of your role at Microsoft and what your sort of goals are at the moment?
Yes. So I'm a product manager on M365 Lighthouse. So I spend my days thinking about how we can support our partners to successfully scale across our shared SMB customers. So as a product manager, I work with another group of a whole group of product managers, developers, designers that spend our days 100% focused on building out, scaling up, and enabling partners through M365 Lighthouse. We spend a lot of time talking to our partners and our partner community to learn from them on what's really important to scale their business and how to successfully secure and manage the SMB customers and truly make them productive on the M365 platform. And hopefully we are translating that into features that we put into Lighthouse that makes that easier for the partners to achieve.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, because I think it's a very exciting sort of prospect. We've seen a lot of the service providers here in Australia have obviously embraced Microsoft technology and using it as their lead stack, evolving it as their lead stack into security as well. But it was that conversation around multi-tenancy management and the efficiency of managing multiple customers. That seemed to be it wasn't necessarily the box that was being ticked 100% of the time. So the evolution in this side of the story is really exciting. So it'd be sort of great to get under the hood and actually have a bit of a look at Lighthouse. Before we jump into that, to kind of tackle the question that I did receive a few times last week, which is around, we may have had a look at Lighthouse 2 years ago. It wasn't necessarily the right fit for us at the time. Are you able to sort of dive into that a little bit before we have a look at the platform itself?
Sure. So I'm guessing by right fit, a lot of folks, when they initially looked at Lighthouse, it was targeted to the customers that had business premium. As you'll see today with M365 Lighthouse, we're starting to really broaden that story. And this has been a journey we've been on for a couple of years. So a little bit while back, we kind of opened the door further from just business premium to do a lot around Defender for Endpoint, Windows 365, all that good stuff. As of recent, we've really opened up the door. We want to make sure Lighthouse is the tool that you can use to scale across all your SMB customers. So what you'll find now is that you can manage the vast majority. There's a couple small exception cases if you're in the government cloud and such, but today you'll find that we're supporting over 172 subscriptions that customers will get onboarded to Lighthouse. The simple short form of that is if your customers have Exchange Online or an Office 365 or Microsoft 365 suite, that customer will get onboarded to M365 Lighthouse. And you'll be able to do a lot of actions today with those set of customers. Things like user management. The number one support call that partners we hear are still dealing with today is password reset. So you can make it really easy to search for a user, discover them, and take action on resetting that password. You can work on setting up all your relationships so that you have the appropriate access as a partner organization into those customer tenants. And that really translates into setting up those GDAP relationships. And the way that we're approaching it is targeting the managed service providers. So while there's a lot of tools out there that help get you GDAP set up, and including tools offered by Microsoft in Partner Center, Lighthouse is that tool that's tailored to the MSP, and we're providing a bunch of best practices on how to set up that and configure it based on working with partners. So there's a lot more goodness to come, especially as we go throughout the year, but you'll see us really kind of expand just beyond the security. So if you haven't looked at us for a couple of years, you're probably missing out on a bunch of security stuff that we've delivered. But as you continue to see us build out in our roadmap, we'll continue to expand to support more and more of those customers and the scenarios around those customers.
Oh, fantastic! And I think it's it's a value to the platform or the proposition itself that we haven't actually mentioned yet, that it's actually free as well. So it's included as a free platform, which is always nice to hear.
That is also a great incentive, because you're our partners, and we're doing this together to support our shared SMB customers. Yes, M365 is a free service for our MSPs to take advantage of.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I think it'd be great to have a look under the hood if you're able to show a bit of a demo here, because I think it's those incremental improvements that really change the lives of MSPs managing multiple M365 customers. An example from the roadshow last week, I was talking to a business owner just around the general proposition of Lighthouse and having a good conversation, but then the level 1 tech was standing behind him. And when I was mentioning that you no longer have to open up incognito windows and have your password manager to navigate into different M365 customers, his eyes just lit up. So I think there's a few sort of like aha moments that can pop up once you start to see a bit more around the feature set.
That is very true. And there's a couple of things I can share with you. One I'll share with you, which is very simple. And it's going to be funny because I'm going to just take you out of Lighthouse. But today, so we've made it really easy to go from M365 Lighthouse into a customer tenant. Let me show you how you can do it. So if we click on tenants, this brings back all the customers that I'm managing. And if I look at Blue Yonder, for example, I can click on the ellipsis, manage services, Intune, and now I'm into the Intune management portal for that particular customer tenant. So we've made it really easy to jump from one to the other. Now, that's a great use case to use Lighthouse as a jumping point. There's also a lot of scenarios where if you're working with a given customer, so if we go down to example like devices, and we're working on device compliance. So here I have 3 customer tenants that have deployed Intune and have deployed compliance policies. If I click on devices, I can see, for example, Allure Bays Corp has a couple of devices that aren't compliant. And this is a case where we're kind of getting drilled in very specifically to a device, and it's time for us to take action. So in this case, we're not going to rebuild all of MEM or all of Intune inside of Lighthouse, but what we're going to do is make it one click away so that you can get into Intune, into that customer tenant. And unlike that simple click off from the tenant list that just got me to the admin portal, we're going to allow you to complete that workflow and actually work on that specific device. So you'll see a number of places where we jump you from the kind of high altitude M365 Lighthouse, but right into the workflows where you need to get work done.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, definitely cuts out the middleman a lot of the time, or a lot of that effort from having to navigate from A to B. And I guess more secure as well, because you're not storing those passwords in different locations and having to enable different techs on how to navigate into them.
And I think what's more important is that it's completely auditable. Because I'm using my credentials, my partner credentials, and it's me going into those portals and acting on those customer tenants, it's being traced back to me, which is a good thing, right? Because as we're managing different customer tenants, and sometimes things do go awry, it can be questionable of who made that change. Was it the customer? Was it the partner? Who was it in the organization? And by using the power of M365 with GDAP and using that single credentials through, you as a partner know who is doing what action, right? So if someone goes in and turns off MFA, and unfortunately that customer is compromised in a certain way, you can trace back exactly who turned off that setting. But with that, let me show you how you can actually, keep MFA enabled on all your customers. How about that?
Yeah, no, that sounds great.
Cool. So I'm going to go back to my tenants page, and we have this concept of deployments and baselines. And the idea behind deployments and baselines is that we want to set up and configure similar customers in the very same way, right? If we can make our customers look and feel the same, we see this with the mature MSPs, that they're successful to really scale their business. So the way that we do that is by having a deployment plan, which is based off of baseline, that provides a very prescriptive set of steps for the technicians to follow in a consistent way. And as you can see in the default baseline that Microsoft releases, first couple of things we want you to do is get MFA enabled on those customer tenants. In this particular case, you can see it's already been deployed at City Power and Light. We're in a compliant state. If we want, we could click through the deployment wizard to see exactly what it's going to do, like enable the policy, review the configuration changes, so you know what's going to happen. It will also inform you about other configurations that may conflict or duplicate what's already set on that customer tenant. And then you can go ahead and click deploy. I'm not going to click deploy because we already done it on this tenant and we don't need yet another set of policies here. But here's the key thing, is that if someone was to go disable MFA today, and you weren't running a tool like M365 Lighthouse, you might not know that it happens. And then what ends up happening is the customer does get compromised. And who cares who turned it off? We don't want our customers getting compromised. We want to keep MFA enabled. So if anybody goes and disables this now, Lighthouse will actually inform you. This state of a compliant will turn into a regressed state. And now we have alerting. So you can be alerted on for when these end up in a regress state. So you can actually monitor the state off of the baseline so that as you get your customers configured and set up in a consistent way, you know when things get changed and reconfigured. So hopefully you don't need to go through all the audit logs and figure out who broke it. You can get it back in a good, healthy state.
Yeah, I think the the concept of having the baseline there and applying that, it sounds really powerful as far as most MSPs out there or technology providers are looking to create that consistent approach aligning to whichever framework they're working with, from a consistency of messaging to the customer perspective, but then also making sure that they can deploy that and improve over time or make adjustments as they need to approach different industries or different standards, because that's what we're seeing a lot here, and I'm sure you are in the States as well. It's now becoming a requirement for different industry bodies or for insurance premiums or different sort of requirements, not just for safety of security for the sake of security. So I think that'll be quite powerful in helping our partners promote that. And then having the reporting to come back to see if that baseline does change over time, obviously helps separate them from the competition or make sure that they can create the most sort of robust security stance for their customers and the reassurance of that as well. So that's great.
And that baseline, the baseline I'm showing you here is our default baseline. So our team has defined what this is and what it looks like and what all the settings are. Hopefully we've done a reasonably good job. If you don't have a baseline today that you're using with your customers, I think it's a great starting point. But like you said, there's a lot of folks that want to follow, different industry standards based on geographical regions, based on their own secret sauce as an MSP. And we understand that. So we are rolling out a feature, which, hopefully everyone will have by the time you see this video or soon after, where you can create your own baseline. So that default baseline, which is the one I was showing you for that customer city, I think it was City Power and Light. This is the one we ship out of box. So if you just set up Lighthouse, you'll see a single baseline with our steps. But as you can see, we are enabling what we call custom baselines, where you can go ahead and create. So we've, in our demo environment, have created a few around financial services, healthcare, E5 customers, for example. So if you are running some of the more higher value functionality in the suite, you can go ahead and start adding additional steps above and beyond what we've included in our default baseline. So you can mold this to the way that needs to be for your customers. And then again, consistently have your customer or have your technicians go out, set things up against your baseline, and then monitor it if things go off course. So.
And I think that some of the other things that we're going to consider when applying tools like this is like employee churn internally at service providers. So it really gives them a pretty precise set of steps or ways to roll out the policies that have been agreed upon by the organization. So getting that consistency and then also just the speed of onboarding is probably something that needs to be factored in as well.
Yep. And on that too, like the speed and kind of the scale thing, we know that partners, unlike our customers, are doing this over and over and over again, right? So this is why we're not giving you that same Mac experience or Microsoft Admin Center experience, which is great. It's rich. It's a wizard, which is kind of like getting MFA set up, one and done, right? It's all there to guide an IT generalist through a set of steps and something that's probably not necessarily their day job. We know partners, you guys got to do this repetitively. So we're building an experience that is tailored for you so that, going through those repetitive motions are hopefully a lot easier and a lot more streamlined as well.
Okay, so if we've had a look at the platform and how it's able to sort of provision and set up the baselines for the customers, are we able to have a look at then sort of the reporting and the alerting that then comes on the back end, how the service provider would then monitor the success of the rollouts?
Sure. So one thing, I'll continue on the theme of MFA. So we'll go ahead and we can click in on users, and there's many things you can do with users, like simply search on a user, reset a password, and all that good stuff. But we have multi-factor authentication. So there's one thing about getting MFA, set up and configured on the tenant. There's still the additional step to get users enrolled and set up and configured. And this is always an ongoing thing because employees come and go within these SMB organizations and they need to get registered. So we provide an operational view that gives you, all the context you need to know where you stand. So as you can see in my demo environment, a lot of our users don't have MFA set up. Hopefully for your customers, it's in a better situation. But if we click again on City, Power, and Light, so we have 3 users that don't have MFA, I can come in here and quickly identify those set of users where we need to go ahead and, kind of prod them to get MFA enabled on their tenant. So here we got Alex, Olivia, and Quincy that needs to go do it. I could go off, click it, create an email, and start chatting with them. There is some valid cases that we hear from partners where MFA can't be enabled on a certain account. Maybe it's a printer or something. So if you want, you can go ahead, exclude users, and get your reporting in a nice, clean state. But helping you build on the tools to really operationalize that. Now, this is MFA. I'll quickly go back to account management because there's some good stuff that I think we've recently shipped here in M365 Lighthouse to help you manage your users. For example, user metrics. This is becoming a very popular feature. So we provide that kind of high altitude view of where your customer's at and the type of users that you have. So you can quickly, look here and say global admins. Wow, Contoso, 20. We've got a lot of global admins sitting on this tenant. We probably want to go figure something out there. Or inactive users, right? So this will actually drill into a deeper experience here. So if I click on those 105 users at Contoso, not surprising in a demo environment, but maybe more surprising in a production environment, we can actually learn who those users are, right? So we get insights about when they last signed in, how many licenses are still assigned to these users. So you might be able to recoup and kind of get those licenses reassigned to other folks so we get deeper engagement usage. Or maybe they're service accounts and you want to take action in a different way. But hopefully these insights will allow you to kind of keep a better visibility on the user accounts that you're managing across all your SMB customers. And again, that's all of them. It's the customers with EOP, it's the customers with BP, it's the customers with E5, and of course, customers with BP.
Yeah, that's great. I think definitely seeing when this popped up on LinkedIn, I saw it a couple of weeks ago around the inactive users reporting. It seemed to resonate pretty heavily with the partner community. I think as far as helping effectively partners save customers money if they're spending money on licenses they're not utilizing is always going to go a long way. If partners can proactively have that conversation, that it shows a really nice customer satisfaction angle. But then also just hygiene within the account. If you've got people who've been leaving organizations or service accounts that aren't or demo accounts that aren't being used anymore, obviously that can present a risk if they don't have the same level of security as an active user, I suppose. So so it's great from a sales tool, but also great from a hygiene and secure perspective as well.
Absolutely, covers both.
Yeah, cool. Well, I'm just trying to think, and I don't want to really appreciate your time. I don't want to take up the rest of your day, but I did want to touch. I'm not too sure if you're able to demo this at the moment as well, or if it's just something we can talk about. But from the sort of the hygiene, the multi-tenancy admin side of things, which is the strength of the core of Lighthouse as a proposition, we're also starting to move into the proactive sales advisory space. So sales advisor's been launched recently as well. Are we able to sort of have a look into that? Because I've been having a lot of conversations around partners with the new Microsoft AI Cloud Partner Program, how you can generate new monthly active users and deployments and those sort of things. Seems like that's a tool that can start to edge into that part of town to help partners grow over time. Would that be accurate to say?
I think it's absolutely accurate. Unfortunately, I can't demo it in my demo environment, and that's due to just how we configure things with our demo environments and how commerce data works. But you're spot on the scenario, and you'll see that we'll continue to grow and invest. We want to really be able to help, do the management and the account management. And Sales Advisor, which was previously known as Project Orland, is a component now within M365 Lighthouse, and it's using AI to generate recommendations of where you can take your customers next. So it kind of helps you prioritize, right? Where are the customers that are ready to take on something like Business Premium or other functionality within the M365 suite? So using the AI models, it generates kind of a list of recommendations in which you can then start to go work with your customers and help them grow and take advantage of more of what they could already be paying for.
Yeah, because that's definitely the conversation that I've been having. Is partners may be able to get their designations this year, but need to make sure that it's that they're keeping an eye on how they're able to generate that increase for next year as well. And obviously, it presents a lot more service opportunities the more you're able to improve those licenses over time. And it seems like since Lighthouse has opened up to pretty much all users except a couple of government ones, some small exclusions, the recommendations will just grow wider and wider and help to build that baseline and then help with the management side, and then the whole picture starts to come together.
Yep. And, on your tenants with Lighthouse, you can go ahead and click on Sales Advisor and you can start getting those insights. So it's already there. It GA'd back in July. So it's available to go try it out. And we'll continue to expand in that space as well over the next year, as you'll see.
Well, great. Well, I think this is a great starting point. I'd love to keep the conversation going because obviously the updates are pretty thick and fast in the Lighthouse space. For partners out there who want to keep up to date with Lighthouse, do you have any recommendations on how they're best able to keep up to date and keep getting the newest news on Lighthouse?
So you can follow our blog. So we blog out on the SMB blog. So if you just go to your favorite search engine and search M365 SMB blog, it should pop up there as a top link. Or you can follow me on LinkedIn. So I like to do little posts as we start to ship things and hopefully drive excitement around what we're offering. So.
Awesome. And yeah, once I put this up on LinkedIn, I'll tag you in it, Chris, and I'll put the link through to the blog as well. Yeah, because it's been definitely eye-opening as I've been following that over the past few months. But yeah, it'd be great to continue the chat and keep growing the usage of Lighthouse.